The porch light glowed faintly through the farmhouse window, the first sign of life Jack Harlan had seen there in 10 long years. He pulled his truck to a stop on a gravel drive, every muscle in his battle-hardened body on edge. His old revolver sat heavy in the glove compartment out here in rural Texas. 40 miles from Austin, strangers spelled trouble. Thieves, squatters, or worse. But as he kicked open the door, what he found inside stopped him cold. A woman was sitting in Sarah's rocking chair, flipping through Sarah's old journal by the dim lamp. Auburn hair tumbled over her shoulders like autumn leaves in the wind. The same slender hands that had once held his own, the same elegant sweep of her neck that had haunted his nights for a decade. Sarah, the name slipped out like a desperate whisper. She looked up, and those familiar hazel eyes locked onto his. But the face was younger, fiercer, full of life. "I'm Grace," she said softly. "Sarah's sister." Jack's hand twitched toward his gun. In that instant, every barrier he'd built around his shattered heart started to crack. 10 years of isolation, 10 years of loyal grief, and now Thiza, living echo of his past, perched in his dead wife's spot. What does a man do when history returns wearing a new mask? When longing crashes into shame like a storm on the plains? Before we unravel this tangled web of forbidden desire in the heart of Texas, buckle Upit's a ride that'll twist your gut and challenge everything you think about love, loss, and second chances. Texas Panhandle, November 2015. The wind whipped across the flatlands like a blade, carrying the chill of an early winter that had already claimed half the local crops. But Jack Harlan hardly felt the bite anymore. Cold had been his shadow for 10 endless years. He'd been a different man once, before the flood of '05 stole everything that mattered. Memories hit him like a shot of bourbon. Sarah Thompson had been 22 when she first rolled into Austin on that Greyhound bus, straight from Dallas High Society. Designer jeans, diamond studs, and that entitled gay city girl's warlike armor. Beautiful, sure, but Sarah saw past Jack's rough edges, the weathered farmer with dirt under his nails and a face lined from sun and sweat. She saw a future. "You don't say much," she'd teased that first night at the county fair, her manicured hand light on his arm. "Don't got much worth saying to folks like you," he'd shot back, blunt as ever. Her laugh rang out like wind chimes on a porch swing. "Maybe that's why I want to hear it." 3 months later, she'd shocked her upscale family by eloping with him, swapping luxury condos for a modest farmhouse, cocktail parties for harvest suppers, and the vast Texas sky overhead. For 2 blissful years, she thrived. Jack saw it in how she'd whistle while frying eggs at dawn, how she'd race to meet him after a long day in the fields. The emails she sent her little sister Grace, brimming with delight at their quiet life. "I never knew peace could feel this full," she'd murmured one evening, head on his shoulder as they watched the sunset bleed orange across the horizon. Then came the flood that drowned it all. The storm hit in March 2005, with rains swelling the Brazos River to bursting. Sarah got caught in the flash flood on her way back from town. Her car was swept away in the torrent. By the time rescuers found her, it was too late. She died, gasping his name, her eyes distant, staring at some horizon he couldn't reach. Back to the present, November 2015, and now her sister was in their home, poring over Sarah's private words. The likeness punched him in the gut, but where Sarah had been calm like a steady stream, this woman was a wildfire. "How'd you track me down?" he demanded, finally sliding his gun back into its holster. Sarah's emails. Grace rose, and he noticed how the country air was already toughening her, the soft city edges sharpening into resilience. "She wrote about you, this farm, being truly content." Content. The word stung like salt in a wound. "She died out here in that very bed, begging for help I couldn't give." She lived out here first, Grace countered, her tone sharper than Sarah's ever was. 2 years of real joy, that's more than most get. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the shutters. A norther was brewing. With the nearest town 40 miles through flooded back roads, this perilous reminder of his loss would be stuck overnight, maybe longer. The idea should have scared him off. Instead, watching her navigate Sarah's kitchen with natural poise, something frozen deep inside him began to melt. For the first time in a decade, it felt dangerously close to warmth. But warmth, Jack Harlan was about to discover, could burn hotter than any blaze. 3 weeks blurred by like a fevered haze. Grace couldn't boil water without scorching the pot, burned the toast, oversalted the stew, turned coffee into sludge, but damn if she didn't try every single morning. She couldn't handle a tractor for beans either. The first time she helped him check the fences, she stalled it twice and nearly got pinned by a loose gate. But she climbed back and every time dusted herself off and kept going. Sarah had adapted smoothly, like she was born to the land. Grace battled for every inch, earning blisters and bruises through pure grit. And Lord help him, Jack couldn't stop noticing her, the way she chewed her lip in focus, how she'd swipe stray hair from her face with a forearm, the elegant tilt of her head when she laughed outright. She was nothing like Sarah. She was everything like Sarah. Then came the night that shattered the fragile peace. December winds screamed around the farmhouse like banshees. Jack had driven to Austin for supplies, leaving Grace alone, a choice he'd curse forever. He caught the scent of trouble first: cigarette smoke and cheap beer. Danger. 2 drifters had her cornered inside, transient types who drifted with the oil rigs, taking what they wanted by force. Through the window, Jack saw Grace pressed against the wall, Sarah's old shotgun trembling in her grip. One guy was already in, creeping forward with a leer. The other guarded the door. "Easy, darling," the first one slurred, reeking of booze and menace. "We're just looking for a warm spot to crash. And some company." "Get out," Grace said, voice steady but her stance screaming fear. "I'll shoot." The man chuckled. "You even know how that thing works?" Jack moved like a ghost, skills honed from years guarding his land from coyotes and worse. The first intruder never hurt him. Jack's knife slipped between his ribs before he could yell. The second spun just in time to face Jack's revolver. "Step out," Jack growled, his tone the kind that made wise men obey. The survivor eyed his buddy's lifeless form and fled into the dark. When it was over, Grace crumpled into Jack's arms, the shotgun clanging to the floor. She shook like a storm-tossed branch, and for the first time since her arrival, she felt vulnerable, human. "You're safe," he whispered into her hair, inhaling her faint lavender scent. "I've got you." She lifted her gaze, hazel eyes wide and stormy in the lamplight, and the air between them ignited. Some boundaries snapped, some floodgates burst. She wore one of Sarah's old sundresses, the floral one with buttons down the front. Her hair had loosened in the scuffle, cascading in waves. In the fire's glow, she was a vision that could break a man. "Jack," she breathed, and the way she said it sent heat surging through him. His hands cupped her face, thumbs brushing her jawline. She leaned in like a magnet, lips parting, pulse racing at her neck. The dress had ripped in the fight, bearing her shoulders' smooth curve. His eyes traced it, and instead of retreating, she undid another button, then one more. Fabric slid away, and Jack's breath hit. She was stunning, all soft lines and radiant skin that shimmered like moonlight. When she tugged at his shirt buttons, fingers shaky with urgency and nerves, he didn't resist. Flannel fell aside, revealing his scarred torso from years of hard labor. She traced a faded mark with her fingertip, the touch like lightning in his blood. "Grace," he rasped, equal parts caution and craving. But she was past heeding warnings. Her hands found his belt, and as skin met skin, the world narrowed to just them. They stumbled toward the bed, clothes pooling on the floor. As she sank back onto the sheets, hair fanning like a halo, Jack thought he'd unravel from need. She pulled him close, and he surrendered until his eyes landed on the photo by the nightstand. Sarah's wedding picture, her soft smile piercing him, accusing him. Reality slammed back like a cold front. What the hell was he doing? This was Sarah's bed, Sarah's room, Sarah's sister. I can't. He jerked away so abruptly that Grace gasped. God, forgive me, can't. He snatched his shirt and bolted to the barn, leaving her alone in the tangled sheets, bewilderment and pain etched on her face. Outside, the wind had quieted, but inside Jack's soul, a fiercer tempest raged. Some cravings, once stirred, refused to fade. For 3 days, they circled each other like wary animals. Jack buried himself in chores fixing tractors that ran fine, herding cattle already settled, patrolling his acres until exhaustion claimed him. Anything to dodge the ache in her eyes. She acted normal, brewed his coffee at dawn, still too strong, cooked his dinners, still overdone. But the easy chatter vanished, replaced by a heavy silence that choked the air. On the 4th morning, she was gone. No goodbye, no note, just an empty house and tire tracks fading toward Austin. Jack stood on the porch, clutching Sarah's photo of one that had halted his betrayal, or maybe robbed him of his only shot at healing. He couldn't tell which anymore. 2 hours later, he was speeding toward town in his truck. The Austin bus station hummed with the usual chaos. Business folks, families heading out, dreamers chasing the next big thing. The afternoon Greyhound to Dallas idled at the platform, ready to haul passengers back to city lights. Jack spotted her right away, Grace on the bench in her travel outfit, the same jeans and jacket from her arrival, her duffel at her feet. She stared at the bus like it was a prison sentence, looking so fragile, so adrift, not the bold woman who'd stare down armed thugs with a gun she barely handled. The driver barked, "All aboard," and riders filed in. Jack strode over, boots thudding on concrete. She sensed him, shoulders stiffening, but didn't turn. "Leavin'?" he asked. "Going home." Her voice held steady, but pain laced it. "There's a difference, ain't there?" She faced him then, and the raw hurt in her eyes struck like a blow. "You made it clear what you see in me you had. I am to you. I see the most dangerous woman alive," he admitted. "One who could make me forget every vow, every boundary I swore to keep. And yet for a guy like me, that's terrifying." The bus horn blared final call. Grace grabbed her bag, but her feet rooted. "She's gone, Jack. Sarah's been gone 10 years. And you've been buried with her. Maybe that's how it's meant to be. Maybe." She stepped nearer, her lavender scent wrapping around him. But is it what Sarah would have wanted? Before he could respond, she headed for the bus. The driver helped her up, and she took a window seat. Through the glass, their stares met one last time. The engine roared to life. Grace pressed her hand to the pane, hesitation flickering like she might yell for it to stop. But she didn't. Jack watched until the bus vanished around the corner, carrying her back to Dallas and a world without him. Then he drove home to his silent farmhouse and the memories lurking there. But some memories, he soon learned, fight to evolve. 2 days of torment, that's what Jack endured after Grace left. 48 hours pacing like a trapped wolf, seeing her ghost everywhere. Her off-key humming over the stove, her curled up with a book by the fire, the bed linen still carrying her scent and his regrets. On the 3rd morning, he fired up his truck without thinking. His gut knew what his head resisted. He had to bring her back. The drive to Austin dragged like eternity, every mile a test of his nerve. What words could fix this? The bus station materialized in the noon haze. His truck tires smoked from the push, but as he scanned the crowd, his heart seized. There she was, Grace, beside her bags, her fancy travel clothes swapped for something simple. Sarah's floral sundress, the one with the buttons, the one from that fateful night. She waited for the eastbound bus, but gazed west toward him. Their eyes locked across the bustle, and everything else faded. Jack approached slowly, like taming a skittish mare. Commuters swirled. Reunions, farewells, deals struck. None mattered but her, 20 feet away, her eyes mixing hope and heartache. "Thought you headed back to Dallas," he said, close enough to spot the freckles on her nose. "Made it to Waco," she whispered. "Couldn't go farther." "Why?" She glanced at her hand, Sarah's hands, but tougher now, callous from farm work. "Realized something on that bus. Sarah didn't just email about this place, she wrote about you. The man who made her smile with a glance, who showed her joy in the everyday, who loved her so deeply he'd rather suffer than dishonor her." Jack felt his defenses shatter, 10 years of walls crumbling. "Grace, don't," she raised a hand. "Don't speak yet. If you want me on that bus, I'll go. Back to Dallas. Marry that banker my folks picked. Vanish from your life." She inched closer, gold flecks dancing in her hazel eyes. "But if you want me home, if you think Sarah might forgive us for choosing life over ghosts," the driver shouted last boarding. Riders rushed aboard. Jack took her hand, warm, solid, alive. "Come home," he grated, voice thick with buried feelings. "Come home with me." The bus pulled away empty of them. As his truck carried them back across the sprawling plains, their shadows trailed long, not fleeing the past, but forging ahead to whatever life they'd claimed together. What do you think, should Jack have let Grace go, honoring his vows to Sarah forever? Or was grabbing that second chance the right move, even if it meant blurring lines of family and fidelity? Drop your take in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stance and why. Let's debate this one out.